Hey, Kevin here, top 100 financial advisor and best-selling author, and we are here to talk about the stock market. Today I want to answer an important question, or a comment rather, that I do hear pretty often. I feel like I hear it like once or twice per year. But that question slash comment is your 401k a scam? Or some people just say your 401k is a scam and just blankly throw it out there and just walk away. So I want to explain why they say that. Is it a scam? Why do people feel that way? And what you can do as an investor. So your 401k is an investing account. It is usually your primary tool for financial freedom. Right now in 2021, you can put up to $19,500 into your 401k. This means that you can put up to close to $20,000 if you're under the age of 50. It increases once you turn 50 and older, that you can put that much money into it and not pay taxes on the growth of that money until you decide to withdraw the money, which is an extreme benefit. We're talking 10, 15, 20 years or more of compounded growth by paying zero taxes until you decide to pull the money out. So that is the huge advantage of 401ks. Now, the disadvantage for some people is that you cannot withdraw the money without any taxes or penalties unless you meet certain criteria. So we had a COVID issue last year, so you could have pulled out for COVID. Unless it's a qualified distribution, if you pull out early, you can pay a 10% penalty plus taxes right then and there. So that is a problem, right? That's not something you want to do. So because the money is essentially locked away until you're 59 and a half, people say, look, I don't want to wait 30 years. I don't want to wait 20 years for that money to compound and do all that kind of stuff. I can go and on my own app, invest as much as I want in a regular taxable brokerage account and make more money, right? I cannot invest in Apple or Nvidia or Disney inside of my 401k. I can only, for the most part, invest in my company stock, assuming they have one and assuming it's even good, because it might not be, right? And index funds. That's it. We know from 50 plus years of data that you're going to get anywhere between 7 to 10% in an index fund on average every year. Again, on average. That does not mean every single year you're going to get that. That's on average. Some years you're going to lose, some years you're going to make way more than that. But the case is, well, look, if I understand the stock market, then I can go out, I can put just as much money as I would put inside my 401k and invest in Apple, and I can do options, I can do all this stuff. I can make way more money and retire earlier on my own. There are a few issues with that most people don't understand or realize. That remember, when you are trading individual stocks and you're holding and buying things for a month, 2 months, 3 months, even just a few hours, your odds of success are much lower, okay? And that tax advantage completely disappears. And remember, in the last video we had talked about, maybe 2 videos ago, we talked about when you start to do that, you pay a higher tax rate. So, let's say you made 10%, but now you're paying a higher tax bracket and you're being taxed a lot sooner. Your money's not going to compound in the same way. You're probably not going to make as much as you think you are going to make. There are very, very few people that have done successful by trading the stock market and becoming a millionaire sooner than what the average person would have done via 401k. Remember, I was a financial advisor. I managed over 140 million, and the advantage of doing that is by seeing dozens and dozens and dozens of millionaires and looking and saying, okay, this is what such and such did, this is what they did, and start to really pull things together. And from my own personal experience, plus some data, and I got some data for you, we know for a fact that most people get there by long-term investing. So they're holding stocks for 10, 15 years at times, at least 3, 4, 5 years. And we do this in my portfolio too. I just so happen to reevaluate every 6 months, but the majority of those stocks that we talked about stick around for quite a while, right? But also, when we're looking at a lot of these other millionaires, the majority of them have gotten there from investing, getting that match in their 401k. If you get a match, not everyone does, but that's another advantage. I forgot to bring that up. When you put in your 19.5, there's a possibility that your company could put in some portion on top of that that most people just don't forget. Like, worst case scenario, I'm already doubling my money. If I put in 6%, they match me at 6, boom, I've doubled my money, I've done nothing. You do not get that in any other account. Not every company offers that, but that is something that you do want to consider. So let's get into some numbers. Okay, so I mentioned that an index fund, which is primarily a 401k for the most part, is going to get you anywhere between 7 to 10%. However, the average trader, the average person that's just kind of investing on their own outside of their 401k, trying to do what I would consider the most, we have data from, what's the name of this company? This is a Forbes article. I think Delbar is the name of the company. And they found that over the last 20 years, so going back 20 years through 2020, so it doesn't count 2021, but going back the last 20 years, the S&P 500, which is essentially the index fund, we talked about those, SPY is the exact one that would track this, during that time would have gotten you 7.43% over the last 20 years. However, the average equity fund investor, and I'll explain what that means, this person got 5.96. So you're already down. What they have is about 1.5% less. And if you're jumping in and out, you're paying a higher tax for that. So you're even worse off. If you're doing this in your 401k and you're getting that 7.43%, then you are doing that without being taxed at this point in time, and it's going to continue to grow over and over and over again. So you're already going to make less on average. Now, I say equity fund investors, these are people who are buying primarily ETFs and exchange traded funds. That's a group of stocks packaged together so that I don't have to go and pick out individual stocks. One good example is PAVE, P-A-V-E. That's the ticker symbol there, and it has a bunch of infrastructure stocks. So that's a sidebar there. So they measure equity fund investors. Now, why do they do that in individual stocks? Individual stocks are very, very similar in that you can move in and out. I would presume that the returns there are very, very similar as well. You've had some ETFs like Cathie Wood's, ARK Innovation Fund that took off last year and did extremely well, but didn't do well, had not done as well this year. So it's very, very similar. But here's the thing. The problem is, and we've talked about this as well, is the emotional factor of it, right? That not everyone has a defined process, which is what I teach about and what we talk about here. Because when you don't have a process, you get upset, the market tanks, you jump in, you jump out, you do all types of these crazy things, and it doesn't actually help you. So for example, they bring up the story of Peter Lynch, who managed the Fidelity Magellan Fund, one of the most legendary funds out there, right? So from 1977 to 1990, so quite a while, right? He made an astounding 29% in that fund. From 1977 to 1990, 29%. Okay, so remember what I gave you the last 20 years, it's only been 7.43%. This man inside this fund, which anybody could have invested in, made 29%. However, the average investor who invested in that fund actually lost money. They actually lost money. How did you invest in something that made 29% from 1977 to 1990 and you lose money? The reason is people kept hopping out of the fund. So when you sit back and you just let things ride, like we did last year with the coronavirus pandemic, market tank, people were jumping out. That wasn't the best thing for you to do. If you had stayed invested, you actually would have made money. When you jumped out and the market was low, didn't really work out for you. Another great example, I know we talk about Nike and what my son did, but you can check the comments from any of the videos that I did about Nike, or you can go to public and look at the comments there, that when I sold at a, what, 12% gain or so, almost 13% gain. And we always talk about buy low, sell high. But in reality, most people don't do that, because that's exactly what I did. I bought low, I sold high. So what you're supposed to do, right? That's what people tell you you're supposed to do. And people were upset at me because I actually did exactly that. Where people have this misconception where they flip it and actually sell at the low point and buy at the high point. That's what people do in practice, and it's not really making sense. So I want to give you one other stat that I really enjoyed that we have brought up before. So when I talk about staying invested, that's the best thing for you to do. I like dollar cost averaging. I just add more money to each investments that I have. I come back every 6 months, and where I'm only changing 1 or 2 positions because they hadn't done well. The rest of them, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Danaher, list goes on, they sticking around, right? That index fund ain't never going nowhere. So here's another example here. So based on data, this is from the Forbes article, investors who remained in the stock market from 1997 to 2017, they had an average annual return of 7.2%. Again, right around that 7%. If by trading in and out of the stock market, if you missed 10 days, if you just missed 10 days because you're trying to get in and out and you were trying to be fancy and do all that extra stuff, if you missed 10 days, your return would have plummeted to 3.5%. You go from 7 to 3.5. That's half. That's basically half. If you missed the 50 best days, you would have lost, in this case, lost 4.5%. So when you're trying to game the system and you think this overconfidence factor where you feel like, oh, I don't need the 401k, I don't need the thing that's been proven for 20 plus years or however long it's been around, I can just go do this on my own, you are shrinking your potential for success. You're taking what could be, I'm just putting an example out there, what could be a 65-70% chance of success, and saying, well, I want to take the harder route and I'm going to take a 10% chance of success. That doesn't mean that you cannot beat the market. That does not mean that you cannot do better on your own without a 401k. I'm just saying you're taking the harder route to do it, right? I understand that you may not want to wait 20 years. You may not want to wait 30 years. That's fine. I don't either. But I would say this, the time is going to pass anyway. 20 or 30 years, that time is going to pass anyway. I would rather look back and be like, boom, I took the easy path, right? And I won, instead of let me take the harder path, pay higher taxes, do this really difficult thing and be profitable every single year, every single month, every single day and make it, versus I could just sit back and pump as much money to the things I know that work, right? There's also a middle ground, which is what we talk about here in the investing method that I use, where I focus on index funds. That's where the majority of my money is. The majority of my kids' money is. We talked about that. But we're taking a tiny slice and we're putting it in companies that we know for a fact have done well. And we're not trading those every day. We're not trading those every month. We're sitting on them every year, every half year. We come back and say, okay, great. These stay, 2 or 3 of them, we'll switch them out and we keep going. And we know that that also has been successful. We have the data, we can look at the numbers, and from the time that we've been doing it, we know it's been successful. So those are different ways. I think from the index 401k factor, it is clearly not a scam. And then you have the sell you a dream, day trading, I'm doing the most, and here are my charts and my graphs and all my complicated terms. I know for a fact that does not work for the majority of people. I can name 2 people it has worked for of the 50 or 60 billionaires I've ever met. Okay. It don't happen often. It can happen. It don't happen often. So, and then you got your people who are right in the middle, who I've invested in my 401k. That's going to be fine. My index funds are fine. But I do hold a few companies that I am not, I repeat, not jumping in and out of every month, every day. Those are the people who are also successful. Again, I've done it. I've also seen it in person. I'm telling you, like, look at the account and say, oh man, this guy's had Ford or ExxonMobil or whatever for 20 years. That's why he's getting these huge dividend checks, right? I've seen it, right? I've seen it in person. It's not theory, and we've got data here to prove it as well. So 5% or so for those who are jumping in and out of stuff. If you leave it alone, you're most likely going to be okay. If you learn nothing else, you saw that in 2020. We saw what happened to the S&P 500, and the majority of stocks were people who invested in January and left it alone, people who invested in March and April and left it alone, and people who sold and panicked in 2020 and said, I don't want to contribute to my 401k. I'm going to pull everything out. I want to go to cash and wait. Those were the ones that lost money. And in this case, they lost 4.5% based on the previous from 97 to 2017, right? If you leave it alone, you're going to be okay. Trust the process. I know it's not always the most fun process, and I ain't here to make fun. I'm here to make money, okay? So that's how I look at it. All right, so that is it for me today. Make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button. Trying to grow. I think we're at 530 some odd subscribers on YouTube. We got to get these numbers up because we have 15,000 on Instagram. We have 400,000 on public. We really got to build up this channel. But the way that you do that, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share with others, and leave a comment. What do you think about trading on your own? What do you think about index funds, your 401k? Do you think it's a scam? Even I gave you all this evidence or not? Let me know what you think in the comments. And that's it. Talk to you guys later.